The country appears to be splitting into two hemispheres even as we watch. There are those places where public officials are allowing science to guide their decisions. States like that are cautiously beginning to relax their lockdowns and finding no spike in illness as they do it. Those are the free states. And then there's the other half of the country, the places where you're glad you don't live right now. In those places, power-drunk politicians crow about science, but resolutely ignore its findings. They don't read the studies. They don't care what the data say. Their decisions are driven by ambition, political calculation, and the pure animal joy of controlling other people's lives. Places like that are tightening their lockdowns even now. Maybe no place in the country represents the authoritarian approach, the Chinese approach, more starkly than Los Angeles does. LA County has more residents than New York City, but while New York has had close to 200,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus, LA has had only about 35,000 in the whole county. Now, the real figure is certainly much higher than that. That's what we find every time widespread testing takes place. But that's the point. So few people in LA have died, relatively speaking, that we're not certain how many are infected. We know they're not sick enough to crowd hospitals. The city's healthcare system has never come close to collapsing. In Los Angeles, the curve is now flat, and it has been flat for weeks. It could reopen tomorrow, and it should reopen, and it would if its leaders were following the science. But it's not reopening. Just the opposite is happening. Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti has now extended the lockdown through the end of July. That means at least 2.5 more months of it. He's using law enforcement liberally to make certain that his citizens obey his orders. Police say they brought criminal charges against at least 60, quote, non-essential businesses for the crime of going to work. Countless other businesses have shut forever. They're not coming back. The citizens who remain stuck in Los Angeles are effectively hostages of the mayor. Garcetti has demanded that anyone who goes outside for any reason, as the heat rises in LA, must wear a mask. It goes without saying there is no science to back up this order or any of Garcetti's so-called health decisions. In fact, it's possible that requiring masks outside will not prevent a single person from being infected in Los Angeles. But Garcetti doesn't care. Anyone who disobeys this order will be punished.
One of the officers began punching the man in the head and the body over and over again.
It's nuts, but it's just the beginning of Eric Garcetti's thoroughly bizarre restrictions. The more you know, the weirder it is. Watch, for example, as Garcetti explains that anyone who goes to the beach must make certain not to touch dry sand. Wet sand is fine. Dry sand is now illegal.
Beaches will open up this week for exercise and active recreation only. In the wet sand, I guess is a good way of thinking about it, not hanging out and tanning in the dry sand.
What's the science behind this? Once again, of course, there is none. It's scary if you think about what this means. It means that America's second largest city has fallen under the total control of a neurotic megalomaniac who is terrified of dry sand. So how long will Los Angeles have to live like this? Possibly forever, Garcetti announced this week.
We've never been fully closed. We'll never be completely open until we have a cure. But I do believe that we can take steps, but monitor those numbers, listen to the scientists and the medical professionals, and make the tough calls, even when there's criticism.
Garcetti has allowed tens of thousands of mentally ill drug addicts to live on Los Angeles sidewalks and under overpasses. If you've been there recently, you know. He's also tolerated flagrant corruption in his own administration. Now he shut the entire city down simply because he feels like it. In New Jersey, for example, citizens are still banned from assembling to worship together as they choose. That's a direct violation of the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. We asked the governor of Jersey, Phil Murphy, about this when he came on our show. He said he wasn't even really thinking about the Bill of Rights when it comes to controlling his population because it's in the way.